Hello and welcome to the Naked Expat channel. Today I want to tackle a question that frustrates a lot of British expats, especially retirees living abroad. Why does the UK give annual increases to the UK state pension in some countries, but not in others? And why is it that if you live in one country, your state pension goes up every year, but if you live somewhere else, it's frozen for life? Let's unpack how these rules came about, who negotiated them, and why the Philippines, surprisingly, is one of the few countries in Asia where the UK state pension actually goes up every year. Here's the short version. You can claim your UK state pension wherever you live. The problem is, it doesn't always increase with inflation once you've left the UK. If you move to a country in the European Economic Area or Switzerland, or one that has a special agreement with the UK that specifically says pensions will be uprated each year, you'll get the increases automatically. But if you retire somewhere without that clause, say Thailand, Canada or Australia, your UK state pension stays fixed at the rate it was when you first claimed it. That's what people mean when they talk about frozen pension. These international arrangements actually go way back to the post-World War II period, where countries started signing what are called reciprocal social security agreements. They were mainly designed to stop people paying into two systems at once and to make sure your contribution record didn't disappear if you worked in more than one country. The problem is, those early agreements weren't really about paying increases abroad. They were just about keeping your entitlement. That's the big distinction. Having the right to a UK state pension doesn't automatically mean the UK has to increase it every year once you've left the country. Each agreement between the UK and another country has two parts. The first part is about counting your national insurance contributions. So if you've worked in both places, you can combine those years to qualify. The second part is about benefit payments and increases, whether your state pension continues to rise with inflation. And here's the key. The second part has to be written into the treaty. If the agreement doesn't mention annual increases, you don't get them. It's as simple as that. So, why do some countries get the annual uplift and others don't? There are a few main reasons. Legal versus political. Within Europe, EU law required the UK to uprate pensions. But outside the EU, it's purely down to negotiation. Cost. Uprating every UK state pension worldwide would cost the government billions. That's why they only do it where there's a treaty obligation to do so. Thirdly, reciprocity. Some countries asked for it and others didn't. Sometimes the UK just said no. And fourthly, politics and population. If a lot of British retirees live somewhere or there's strong diplomatic pressure, uprating is more likely to be included. One of the most interesting cases is the Philippines because it's one of the only Asian countries where the UK state pension is uprated every year. That all comes down from a formal treaty, the UK-Philippines Convention on Social Security, signed in the mid-1980s and brought into force on the 1st of December 1989 through the Social Security's Philippines Order 1989. From that day onward, if you live in the Philippines, you get the same annual increases as if you were living in the UK. So how did that happen? Well, it wasn't luck, it was diplomacy. In the 1980s, the Philippines started a big push to sign social security agreements, SSAs, with countries that employed large numbers of overseas Filipino workers, or OFWs. The goal was to make sure Filipino workers abroad, especially those who paid into social insurance systems, could still claim fair benefits when they returned home to the Philippines. At the same time, many Filipinos were already working in the UK, particularly in healthcare and domestic service. By the early 2000s, there were tens of thousands working in the NHS alone, and today there are well over 30,000 Filipino staff in the NHS, not to mention many more in care homes and the service sector. That community, contributing national insurance, paying UK taxes and building entitlement to the UK state pension, gave both countries a reason to make the system fairer. When the treaty was negotiated, the Philippines pushed for a clause that guaranteed increases and supplements to old age benefits, and the UK agreed, and that's why your UK state pension goes up every year if you live in the Philippines. It's a rare success story, and it shows what can happen when a country actively negotiates for its overseas workers. Let's say you're a Filipino nurse who worked in the NHS for 15 years, paying national insurance the whole time. You'd have more than the 10 qualifying years you need to get a UK state pension. If you then retire home to Manila, let's say, you'll still get the same annual increases as a retiree in Manchester. That doesn't happen in most other Asian countries. If you retire to Thailand, Malaysia or Singapore, your state pension will stay frozen at the same rate it started. So, the Philippines is a true outlier, not because of geography or politics, but because it negotiated the right treaty language 35 years ago. Well done, the Philippines. Let's compare a few others. Canada. There's a UK-Canadian Social Security Agreement, but it doesn't include uprating. So if you move there, your state pension is frozen at the rate when you left. Australia and New Zealand. It's the same story. They've got agreements, but no uprating clause. So your UK state pension stays flat for life once you move to Australia or New Zealand. Now let's look at Caribbean countries like Barbados and Jamaica. They do get uprating because their old Commonwealth era treaties actually included it. Back then, the UK was more generous about adding those clauses. You can now see why people call this unfair. You could have two people who paid exactly the same national insurance, one living in Spain and one living in Thailand, and they'll end up with totally different outcomes. One gets increases every April, the other never does. The case of Carson and Reynolds versus United Kingdom went all the way to the European Court of Human Rights in 2005. The judges said the policy was unequal, but not illegal. Basically, the government is allowed to decide who gets increases based on costs and treaties. That ruling pretty much cemented the system. Unless there's a treaty or a new law, you can't force the UK to uprate your pension abroad. The UK government says there are three main reasons. The law. They'll only uprate where there's a treaty or statutory duty to do so. The cost. Paying increases everywhere would be far too expensive. And thirdly, negotiation. Uprating is a benefit they choose to offer, but not an automatic right. What can you do to change it? The only way this could change would be if the UK decided to renegotiate its existing treaties to add uprating clauses, unlikely, sign new treaties and ones that include uprating, or change domestic law to pay increases to everyone, no matter where they live, which would cost billions a year. So here's the bottom line. The UK state pension system abroad is a patchwork, built over decades of piecemeal treaties and political decisions. The Philippines stands out as a rare win, a country that actively negotiated annual uprating thanks to its large overseas workforce and forward-looking diplomacy. Meanwhile, expats in countries like Canada, Australia, and most of Asia still face frozen pensions, not because they paid less, but simply because their governments never secured the same legal deal. If you're planning to retire overseas, check the official gov.uk list of countries where the UK state pension is uprated. A link in the description. It's one of the most important decisions that you will make, because once you move, it's too late to change how your pension behaves. And if you think this system is outdated or unfair, you're not alone. Thousands of campaigners are still pushing for reform. After all, fairness shouldn't depend on your postcode or your latitude. For anyone who wants to dig deeper into the source material I used, here are the key references for this video. Gov.uk lists countries where the UK state pension annual increases are paid, and it shows the Philippines on the uprating list. UK-Philippines Convention on Social Security, the official treaty text implemented by the Social Security Philippines Order 1989. That's available via sss.gov.ph. Hansard, the parliamentary record confirming the agreement's entry into force and the annual uprating from December 1989. The House of Commons Library, figures and briefings on Filipino NHS staffing levels showing the scale of the UK-Philippines workforce connection. And again, gov.uk, pages on UK state pension qualifying years confirming the 10-year minimum contribution requirement to receive anything regarding your UK state pension. If you found this video useful and informative, please like and subscribe if you've not already done so, and consider becoming a channel member. Members get priority access to new videos, recognition on screen, and enhanced discounts on services such as authorised independent international financial advice, estate planning, will writing, and one-on-one expat coaching and mentoring from yours truly. Your support helps me keep producing content that makes life abroad easier, fairer, clearer, and better informed for all of us. I hope you've enjoyed watching. Until next time, enjoy.